Sweden is mourning the victims of its deadliest ever mass shooting. A gunman opened fire Tuesday at an adult education center in the city of Örebro, killing at least 10 people. Residents, Swedish officials, and members of the royal family attended a memorial service Wednesday at a nearby church. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said that the incident marked a dark day in Sweden's history.
As the city of Örebro tries to cope with being the scene of Sweden's worst ever mass shooting, nursing student Helen Verme can't stop thinking about her schoolmates who aren't answering their phones. We don't know where they are, if they're in the hospital or if they're still lying where they were shot. We haven't had an answer. She was among the students at Risbergska School in Örebro who made it out alive after a man entered the facility Tuesday and opened fire. Flags are at half-staff around Sweden for the 10 who didn't make it. An 11th casualty is the shooter himself, found dead on the scene by police responding to the incident at this adult education center. It serves mostly immigrants trying to improve their Swedish language skills and employment opportunities. More than a day after the attacks, this makeshift memorial across the street is where people are still coming to light candles, lay flowers, and share their sorrows. But along with this collection of remembrances, the list of questions for which we have no answers yet is also growing. Authorities have given very little information, other than to say the attacker had no police record and owned the gun legally. As to a possible motive, they've ruled out terrorism and gang connections, but also suggested he was not driven by ideology. Late Wednesday, however, multiple media outlets reported that the shooter was a 35-year-old Swedish man, Rikard A. Unemployed, he had once been enrolled at the school. Some reports say he shouted racist remarks while shooting. Örebro's mayor says his city is in shock and he urges patience with the investigations.
We don't know yet, and I don't think it's time to speculate, but I hope that the police will find the motive and why this has happened.
But law student Reham Attila thinks she knows why.
From our leaders, how they just talk about us as an issue, as a problem, the immigrants.
Nevertheless, Shams Ukomar Andesh, who attended Risbergska along with his wife, is undeterred.
These things cannot stop us from going to school or going integrated to the society. So it will not stop us now.
Meanwhile, the Swedish king and queen and Örebro's religious leaders came together to honor the dead, while Helen Verme just keeps praying her friends are not among them.
Our correspondent Terry Schultz, she is in Örebro following this story for us. Terry, what more have the police said about what happened?
Well, Brent, as much as many of us who are covering this story would have liked to get much more information from that police briefing this morning, they really shared very little new information. The investigation is underway, and they're very much trying to tamp down rumors about what happened and who did it. In fact, they have not given us the identity of the suspected gunman. Local media say it was a 35-year-old unemployed Swedish man, but police urge people, again, not to jump on those kind of stories. You know, part of the reason that tensions about these rumors are so high is because the victims are most likely all immigrants at this school across from where I'm standing right now. They were in school to try to improve their skills in Swedish, their integration into the job market. As Örebro Mayor John Johansson told me earlier, they were trying to become exactly the kind of citizens that immigrants here in Sweden are urged to become. That's part of how painful this situation is for everyone right now.
And what have you been able to determine there in this town? I mean, how are they coping with what has happened?
Well, as you can see behind me, people are still bringing flowers and lighting candles, as they have been since the yesterday afternoon. I spoke with some of the mourners who gathered here today. This school, as did his wife, said, you know, this incident just makes us stronger. He said, in fact, the education he received here did allow him to have a career that has been successful for the last decade. He said people would draw together, and he had friends who were in that school at the time. I spoke with another young lady here, an international law student at Örebro University, and she said pretty much the opposite. She said this just reminds us that officials in Sweden always talk about immigrants as the other, that they try to make us feel that we don't belong here. In fact, she told me that this incident may make her finally decide to leave Sweden because she feels like she is being made to feel not a part of society.
And Terry, if you could put this in the national context for us, because we've heard from the Swedish Prime Minister telling us that this was the worst mass shooting in the country's history.
That's right. They said that the 10 people plus the shooter is the worst single day killing in Swedish history. Now, if you want to look at school incidents, violence at schools, it really doesn't happen here that much. The last high profile case I can recall was a couple of years ago in Malmö in southern Sweden when a student actually killed two of his teachers with an axe. But otherwise, you don't hear about large-scale killings at schools. What Sweden is suffering at the moment is large-scale gang violence, which does also engulf its youth and with guns. But again, that is not related to the school situation and cannot be compared with what was suffered here by Örebro yesterday.
All right, our correspondent Terry Schultz there with the latest from Örebro in Sweden. Terry, thank you.